I can't tell you, or nobody can tell you with any certainty, okay, yes, when you graduate, these are going to be your options, or this is how you should proceed. Because, the last 10 months or so, nobody anticipated. Okay, we did not know how to deal with
कौन
it.
सुन रहा है
That's
कौन
like
है
a lot of you.
अटेंडेंस
बढ़िया
दे
है।
रही हूँ मैं तो
We all learned to deal with it. We all
मैं तो
found our
अटेंडेंस
way. We all sort of
दिखाई है
carved our way, found our niche, and that's how we sort of survived it. Okay?
नहीं
And
नेट से
that's
नहीं होता
going forward.
तो
That's
क्या
the way.
अबे यार मेरे पास फोन
So, a quick, just basic introduction to myself. My name is Fawzia Kirai Khan. What do I really do for a living? My job is to partner with people and organizations in their drive towards excellence. So it sounds fancy, but basically what I am at the end of the day is a people developer, okay? People are the biggest assets in any organization, and that is all you need to develop. The rest of it can come and go, as we have learned in this economy, in this time. It's the people that matter. It's not the physical presence, it's not the physical premises. The nature of work for most people has also changed. How they approach things. For instance, our retail market aapki dekhein. तो ज़्यादा focus आ गया online पे. All of these things changed, right? Digital transformations are the order of the day. Any and every organization at this point, at some stage or the other, is going through a digital transformation, okay? What do you think, or who do you think is driving that digital transformation? Could it be the CEO that decides, okay, hey, it's time that, we embrace new ways of, working? Is it probably the chief technology officer who says, okay, bhai, digital aa gaya hai, ab humne bhi yahi karna hai? Or any other suggestions? Who do you think? Sorry? Employees are saying it? I'll tell you, you'd be surprised. You know what's driving the digital transformation? Yeah. COVID-19 is what is driving the digital transformation, okay? Everybody knew this is the last 5 years the world has moved or has embraced digital. 5 साल से हो चुका है, हम भी मांग रहे हैं, हर एक मांग रहा है. We had a lot of resistance in a lot of organizations. I work on this kind of thing. I'm a consultant. Excuse me, and this is another kind of a cough. Do not mistake it for the obvious. One has to explain आजकल, normally तो कुछ और मतलब खांसते रहे शर्म आती है किसी जगह. But खैर, COVID-19 is what is driving it. Everybody had embraced it earlier. We all know it had to be done. All organizations were cognizant of the fact that we have to go digital. But हाँ, करेंगे, हम भी करेंगे. आज दिन तक भी मैं लोगों से जब बात करती हूँ कि जी आप learning, L&D is what I do, right? Learning and development. L&D में आप ठीक है, virtual, हमने हाँ जी virtual embrace कर लिया है. पहले हम इस तरह खड़े होकर ट्रेनिंग्स करते थे, अब वो कहते हैं जी आप Zoom पे बैठ के कर लें, जैसे आधी कौम हमारी अब देख रही है हमें, right? But that's not digital. That's just employing a different medium, right? So digital के dynamics फर्क हैं. It's done another way, but people are looking for halfway measures. They're not going there yet. So, but what my point is that COVID-19 is driving this. It's driving them to look at different aspects. I was thinking of what Madiha said earlier, that they did not have access to a lot of international consultants earlier because of people's hesitance to come to Pakistan, or age factor, or whatever it may be. पहले क्यों नहीं सोचा था कि जी हम Zoom पे या virtual sessions कर सकते हैं? क्यों नहीं सोचा हमने? नहीं ख्याल आया. Because this is all we knew. For us, this is one step forward कि जी हम Zoom या any other mode, Teams, जो भी आप इस्तेमाल करें, कि हम virtually भी कर सकते हैं. So yes, COVID is driving the digital transformation in organizations. So basically, आपने एक चीज याद रखनी है, किसी न किसी aspect में, whether you are social policy, whether you are economics major, whether you are arts and fine arts, whatever it may be, you need technology, all right? Because that is the overarching theme now. You cannot say कि नहीं जी मैं techie नहीं हूँ. किसी न किसी aspect से technology will impact your work and what you want to do. Okay, and we will examine that a little later. Just certain certifications, people seem to be very impressed with these kind of things, and they feel that, what is your qualification for telling us whatever you are? So I guess certain things help, right? Some facts, 50,000 hours हो चुकी हैं trainings के, अब हमारे 150 plus learning interventions कर चुके हैं. 14 odd years I've been working with different verticals, different clients in the industry. So I speak from a very wide experience of, different verticals, let's say. Some, norms that we might want to follow. 2 घंटे हैं हम साथ. I would appreciate it if your phones are on silent, which I assume they are because they haven't rung so far. Do refrain from texting as well if it's personal. Some people prefer to take notes this way. That's fine. We're all grown-ups and we, don't need to be sort of followed up. Participate, like I said. Please share, ask, contribute, because the cumulative knowledge in this room is far more than what one person can deliver. Listen and ask the right questions. Okay? So listening in itself is an art, and that is an art that you need to cultivate in yourself. ये खुद नहीं हो जाता, okay? Hearing खुद हो जाती है. Listening के लिए आपको बहुत कुछ करना पड़ता है, which is what? Any ideas how it's different from hearing? Absolutely. So you have to think about it. You have to process it, okay? And then you have to respond. So right now, you may all not be responding in verbal terms to whatever I'm saying. But when I look at each of you, automatically, if you're listening to me, you will look into my eyes and you will nod your head, which means you're with me. So that is a form of feedback. In a one-on-one conversation, you give feedback otherwise. Okay? So listening implies the feedback loop. Okay, yes, I am with you. I have understood what you're saying. Crosstalks. What do you think crosstalks are? Yeah, exactly. Apas mein, right? Now, with this social distancing, aapko zara dur bitha diya gaya hai, but hota kya hai कि when somebody is sharing something, for instance, obviously your story is better than theirs, right? ये तो है ही ना. उसकी कहानी क्या होगी जो आपके साथ हुआ है? So अंदर से आ रही होती है बात, and you have to tell somebody, so you start telling the person next to you, which is not only just distracting, but also disrespectful. Okay? So if it's that important, I suggest you wait and share with the rest of us also. Otherwise, eat the thought. Theek? So now that we have this clarified, shall we go on? So a slight poll before we go on, right? How many of you are worried about automation putting jobs at risk? 1, 2, yeah. So the rest of you, 3, 4, yeah. So the rest of you don't feel that's a possibility? Nahi hoga ye? Has anybody been following the World Economic Forum, WEF ke reports, the future of work? 2025, 2030 तक क्या होने वाला है? It's scary.
यार वो कुछ कह रही हैं सुन ले.
Report पढ़ ले. It's freely downloadable. Read it. It tells you what all is going to get obliterated and क्या चीज survive करेगी. Okay, in their opinion. All right. So how many of you feel technology can never replace the human mind? Most? Okay. Interesting. And how about I'm not worried, because as an automated workplace, we'll also need human skills. Right. So in what capacity do you think your skills will be required? So we have machines. Right now, for instance, one thing that comes to mind is customer service. ठीक है? तो हम पहले फोन किया करते थे, if you have an issue, you need some more information about a product or anything at all. Right now you have bots doing that. Interviews, okay? We have bots taking interviews. We have automated teller, automated systems which will track applicants and sift through resumes, do all of that. So बहुत चीजें जो हैं अब automate हो गई हैं जिसमें human interaction की जरूरत नहीं है. Where do you think we'll still come in? Driverless cars, for God's sakes, people. I mean, you know, we're not talking artificial intelligence right now. We're talking augmented intelligence, which is one step beyond. And it's here. This is the future. I mean, it's not the future anymore. It is the present. तो क्या होगा? आप क्या करेंगे? आप सोच रहे हैं कि वहां बैठ के मैं मशीन चला लूंगी? ये हो सकता है? Nobody? Yes? Uh-huh. Yeah. 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 Perfection does not exist, right? So those of you who think you're perfectionists, please, this is a wake-up call. Perfection does not exist. What is the one thing that is perfect?
There's a lot of students participating online as well, so they've been sharing their thoughts.
Oh, great.
So maybe if you want to look at it or how we want, we
Um,
can rate it, we can do that.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so I can at least.
Sure.
So I was asking, what is perfect anyway? Anybody? The one thing that is perfect. The one thing. Yes, God Almighty, right? So Allah ki hasti ke alawa, there is nothing which is perfect. And you know what's God's best creation? Yeah, you and I, right? Humans, Ashraf al-Makhluqat. And you know what? Your right eye is not the same as your left eye. Your right foot does not measure the same as your left foot. And that's a fact. So if anybody wanted to achieve perfection, God could have, but he said, beta kaam to chal raha hai na. Right? So why put in that extra effort? And that's something you must remember in your lives, in your student life, in your professional life, the 80-20 principle. Does anyone know the 80-20 principle, the Pareto principle? Yes? Can you tell us what it is? Yeah. So basically, the way I like to see it is, yes, it is the 80-20 ratio, right? In relationships, in anything and everything. Basically, Alfredo Pareto was an economist, so he started economic theory थी कि भाई देखें अगर आप even अगर आप banks का देखें 80% of the revenue comes from 20% of the clientele, right? And बाकी जो 80% है वो कहाँ से आता है 20% से. Do you get it? So the A clients, the VIP clients, the premier clients are just a handful. Lekin you need the masses as well. So in terms of effort, the way I like to say it is 80% of effort, okay, focused effort is good enough. Don't go after that last 20% because it's not going to yield anything more, right? So know when to call it bus. Okay, so we have sort of concluded at this point that there is no reason to be very worried despite the future of work reports and all of that, because there will always be a role for humans here. ठीक है ना? And I think one of the panel members, Afan, if I'm not wrong, kept going on about emotional intelligence and social intelligence and how you need creativity and I think your favorite word was flexibility. ठीक है? And these are the very things that will make you survive this VUCA world. Has anybody heard of the VUCA phrase? VUCA. They call it the VUCA world now. Okay, volatility, uncertainty, U. C for complexity, and A for ambiguity. तो कुछ नहीं पता क्या होगा और कब होगा. But agility is something you need to be able to bounce back and respond. Yes.
Could you use a mic?
Over the last 6 months, we've realized that there's a sudden shift in the world, and it's not going to be the same it was before February, correct? And before, the technology sector was dominating the world economy. My question, which is, I think everybody's question, is healthcare going to take over the world economy now? Because since COVID is an untreatable disease so far, healthcare is very, very important, and emphasis on healthcare is more important now more than ever. So my question is, are pharmaceutical companies or healthcare in general going to overtake technology? Because agar aap sabhi abhi baith ke dekhein, to everybody here is wearing a mask, and everybody has to buy a mask. Chahe 20 rupees ka ho, chahe 100 rupees ka ho, somebody's profiting off it. So my question is the world going to be dominated by the technology sector in the next 10, 20 years, or is it going to be the healthcare sector? And
Okay.
it's a pure speculation, obviously. I won't hold you to your word for it.
No, I think you can fairly hold me to my word in this. And this is not a cop-out, what I'm going to say, okay? But the fact is, it will be the health tech area, okay? It's health tech, which is health aided and fueled by technology. And that's the future. Aajkal, agar aap, if any of you keep an eye up on startups or that area, aap entrepreneurs ko dekhein, what is the one area where there's mushroom growth? Health tech. Okay? Ek ed tech hai aur dusra health tech hai. These two areas are experiencing rapid growth because that's what's going to dominate the landscape now, right? I hope that sort of answers your question. And going back to what I said earlier, technology. So you cannot do without technology, right? Malia's job is what? HR, she says, but I think it's technology because she's an analyst. Her work is to analyze numbers which are spewed forth by machines and algorithms and make sense of them. The machine can give you the numbers. Uske saath karna kya hai? और उसको इंटरप्रेट किस तरह करना है is what an analyst does. So किसी तरह से भी आप देख लें, चाहे वो HR हो, चाहे वो L&D हो, चाहे वो medicine हो, technology has seeped into every aspect of our lives. ठीक है ना? So there is no getting away from it. And the sooner you embrace it, the better it is. Has anyone seen any of these on the net? Shift Happens. Okay, so this is a very popular series, and they've done it in many different areas. And what I did today was select choice things out of it to share with you. It's just about how we're living in different times. And this is, the series started in the early 2000s, if I'm not wrong. So it's been a while, right? तो ये नहीं है कि ये सिर्फ COVID inspired है. Did you know that the top 10 in-demand jobs in 2010 did not exist in 2004? Any jobs that you can think of? जो 2004 में थे ही नहीं? CTOs, there you have it, right? Knowledge officers, right? अब हम knowledge repositories create कर रहे हैं, हम technology पे focus कर रहे हैं. बहुत सारी ऐसी चीजें हैं जो नहीं थी पहले. I would say maybe given 15 odd years ago perhaps, HR का concept नहीं था. Admin करता था और finance करता था ये काम. Payroll कर लिया जी, payroll processing होती है. और बाकी क्या चाहिए, एडमिन का काम है थोड़ा बहुत ये फाइल शाइल बना लेंगे, पर्सनल फाइल बना दिया, तस्वीरें लगा देंगे इनके साथ. That was all HR was, right? So basically it was HR management. And now we're in the area of HR development. तो हर चीज प्रोग्रेस कर रही है, आगे चल रही है, roles are shifting, dynamics are shifting. So basically what it means is, for you guys, you are currently being prepared for jobs that don't exist yet. Do you see how it goes? Because using technologies that have not been invented yet in order to solve problems that we don't even know are problems yet. 10 years ago, who knew about climate change? Who knew about your carbon footprint? नहीं था ये कुछ, हमें होश ही नहीं था इन चीजों का. Now it is the biggest sort of even political agenda right now. Yeah? And we all know that technology wise, अगर आप देखें, अगर आपने कोई भी सेल फोन खरीदा है 2 साल में वो obsolete हो चुका होता है या नहीं है? Pretty much the technology changes, especially with Apple, right? But that's their gimmick, that you have to keep buying new ones. But yeah, that's how it is. Technology is moving so fast that एक ज़माने की जो languages थे, आजकल आप अखबार सुने और उठाएं और डिमांड ही कोई और चीज की है. What is it now? Cloud. Cloud did not exist as cloud right now जो है 5-7 साल पहले नहीं था ये सारा कुछ शोर, right? Azure developers नहीं थे, आपके stack नहीं था, ये नहीं था, वो नहीं था. लेकिन अब है. These are part of, even if you don't know it, we're not in it, you know these words. Scrum, Fanating, आपको पता होती हैं ये चीजें because this is part of our lexicon now. We are living in exponential times. The number of text messages sent and received every day exceeds the total population of the planet. Okay? And what is the population of the planet right now, roughly? 7.7 billion. Yep, 6-7 actually, yeah. There are about 540,000 words in the English language, and they're being increased as we speak. ठीक है ना? We know that. बाबा अंग्रेजी किसको कहा जाता था? Shakespeare? One can safely say was, yeah? 5 times as many words now as in Shakespeare's time. 5 times. Okay? It is estimated that a week's worth of the New York Times, एक अखबार, एक हफ्ते का publication, contains more information than a person was likely to come across in a lifetime in the 18th century. हमारे पास at our fingertips एक हफ्ते में इतनी information है जितनी एक इंसान पूरी जिंदगी में हासिल करता था in the 18th century. Okay, this is phenomenal. But yes, this is a double-edged sword, and we all know that, right? So इसका bane भी है और boom भी है या नहीं है? There is information overload also. कुछ ज़्यादा ही चीजें भी हो जाती हैं तो आपको पता नहीं चलता है भाई क्या पढ़ना है और क्या नहीं. What do you trust and what don't you trust? So that's there too. Humans will create more information in the form of data in the next 2 days than was created in all of history up until the year 2003. 2 दिन. Okay? 1.7 MB of data is created every second by every person in this year. Be it YouTube, be it text, be it whatever, WhatsApp, anything. 463 exabytes, which is 10 to the power of 19 of unique new information will be generated each day by humans in 5 years' time. आप exponential increase देखें. This is more than in the previous 5,000 years. It's mind-boggling, these facts. Google processes 40,000 search queries per second, 3.5 billion searches per day, and 1.2 trillion searches per year on a global level. right? And we all talked about it. In fact, Walia was very adamant that we all go to Google and actually search for options and things and whatever. How many of us use Google on a daily basis? Everyone, everyone, okay? Tell me, who were these questions addressed to before Google? हम कहाँ जाते थे? या क्या हमारे पास सवाल ही नहीं थे? How many of us have actually physically picked up an encyclopedia and looked up something? Yeah, yeah, right? Not for everyday queries. Yeah, I have a research project. I don't have an option. I'll go to the library, I'll look it up. But right now, this is information at your fingertips. You know, your 3-year-old niece, nephew, cousin, whatever, probably has all that same access to the information that you do. If all the information on Wikipedia, which started in 2001, were printed without images, I'm not even talking about images, sirf text, it would consist of 2053 volumes of Encyclopedia Britannica, जो 1768 में start हुआ था और उसके 32 volumes थे. Wikipedia, and we all know how it came about, right? So it's you and me writing whatever we want to write there. And sure, read it by somebody out there, but this is the statistic. The amount of new technical information is doubling every 2 years. For students starting a 4-year technical or college degree, it means that half of what you study will be outdated by your 3rd year of study. 2 साल में तो obsolete हो ही जाना है. There is more processing power in the T183 calculator than in the computer that landed Apollo 11 on the moon. How many of us have that computer, this calculator, and have used it? I think everyone at some point or the other. No? Okay, yeah. One gentleman hasn't, but that's okay. But calculus, ye wo maths, har cheez ke liye istemal kiya hai ye. Anyway, in 1990, 1 million people worldwide owned a mobile phone. Today, there are between 5 and 6 billion phones in circulation. And while technical predictions further out than 15 years are, very difficult to make because at the rate things are changing, predictions are that by 2049, just 30 years away, $1,000 का एक ऐसा computer होगा which will exceed the computational capability of the entire human race. Okay, so that's scary. So what does it all mean? Shift happens. Okay, now you know. Coming back to the future of work. Okay, and I keep referring to the World Economic Forum report, and now all the major consulting firms, as in PwC and Mercer, and har ek ne apna chapa hai ki ji, this is what we think is going to be the future of work. Some talk in terms of industries, some talk in terms of numbers and jobs being eliminated or created. But generally, the world of work is changing. Artificial intelligence ke liye, automation, robotics, ye sari cheezein jo hai, these are significant shifts. They change the skills that organizations are looking for in their people. Isn't it true? Yes? No? Maybe? Yes. So what will the future look like? This is not a time to sit back and wait and see. Okay, let's see next year kya hota hai. तो फिर हम decide करेंगे कि हम क्या करेंगे. All right? This is a time to prepare for the future. And in order to prepare for it, you need to understand it. So one thing I want to say now is do not lose this time. These COVID times when you have maybe online classes, sure, you may be continuing with your classes, but you're saving on आपका commute time है या नहीं है? तो कहीं ना कहीं time तो बच ही रहा है ना आपका. Use that time wisely. Okay? I think personally that when you will be going for interviews for your jobs, one of the key questions that will be asked is, what did you do during these times? How were you a better person? Okay, what did you learn? So again, we talked about all these online resources. Get certifications, learn new things. Learn things that you have not learned earlier. Analytics, ऐसी चीजें जो पहले आपने नहीं की वहां जाएं, वो सीखने की कोशिश करें, बिकॉज नॉलेज इज नेवर वेस्टेड। ये ना कहें कि ये मेरा फील्ड नहीं है, क्या फायदा होगा इसका? कहीं ना कहीं कोई ना कोई फायदा जरूर है। By now, we've all heard the statistic. In the next 5 years, more than half of the workplace tasks will be performed by machines. And good jobs, yes, will be obliterated. होगा, जैसे हमने बात की, ड्राइवर्स की जरूरत नहीं होगी, सेल्फ ड्राइविंग कार्स हैं, राइट? तो इस तरह की बहुत सारी चीजें खत्म भी होने लगी हैं, बट बहुत सारी नई चीजें भी आएंगी। Like we said, कोई ना कोई तो चलाएगा इनको। This is one of the statistics, right? So 2025, 52% will be machine. The future of our work asks us to consider the biggest questions of our age. क्या influence रहेगा technology का, automation का, artificial intelligence का on where we work? Because where का सवाल अब आ चुका है. Is it at home? Is it in the physical environment? And how we work. So obviously the way we work is also impacted. The tools we are using. I mean, how many people knew of Zoom as much as we know it now, maybe a year ago? Right? So all those things are changing. Will we need to work at all even? Maybe that's a sawal. Or what is our place in an automated world? Where do I see myself in this automated world, and how do I carve a place for myself? So, you know, a lot of people will talk about technology and the role of automation and workplace pay, jobs pay, logo pay. Ye hai. There is no denying that. But the truth is, it's less about technological innovation and more about the manner in which humans decide to use that technology, right? So what you have to do is know how to use technology. You don't need to create technology, in other words. ठीक है ना? So when the microwave came about, you didn't need to know कि ये चलता कैसे है और ये क्या शय है और what is the science behind it. All you needed to know was कि ये मैं 3 बटन प्रेस करूंगी तो मेरा खाना गर्म हो जाएगा, right? And that was good enough for me. मेरा काम चल गया. And that's how you have to learn to deal with technology, because I'm assuming we're not techies in here, all of us. ठीक है? Humans and machines will collaborate to make decisions. Like I said earlier, the data is brought forth by the machines. It's the human who decides what to do with that data, how to use it. Study after study shows that technology will alter roles. जहाँ पे mathematics, STEM की बात होती है आजकल, right? STEM is huge. Everybody is talking about STEM. Do we know what STEM is? Yeah, good. Uniquely human traits जैसे हैं emotional intelligence, creativity, persuasion, innovation, ये चीजें कहीं ज़्यादा valuable होती जाएंगी, because I'll tell you what, machines don't know these things. Empathy is something a machine does not know, right? You know how a machine, you know what machine learning is? How does it come about? Whatever is, you know, originated by machine learning. Yes? Basically. And it learns from whatever has been done before, from precedents of what you and I have done. It picks up on that and then tells you what the probability of this or that happening is. ठीक है ना? तो humans का role आप खत्म नहीं कर सकते, because उसी पे तो चल रहा है ये सब कुछ. Okay, talking about technology and the uses, this is a very cute video that I would like to share with you. So I kept telling them it wouldn't work. I told you videos नहीं चलेंगे. So technology हर चीज का जवाब नहीं है, right? They say, Charles Darwin said, it is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent that survives. It is the one that is most adaptable to change. And that adaptability to change, that flexibility is what we have to demonstrate. One of the components of emotional intelligence, if you please, is adaptability and flexibility. जिसकी अगर in absence of which you cannot survive, especially in this VUCA world. So some things that we should actually do, and I was told that this has to be more of a motivating session than a demotivating one. And अब तक हमें बड़ी scary चीजें लग रही थी कि यार technology खा जाएगा, मैं कहाँ हूँ, क्या करूँ? But like I said, you will find your way, you will find your niche as long as you are well thought out and you know and you can foresee what is to come. That's the whole idea. To not be reactive to change, but to be proactive towards it. ठीक है ना? There was this book which came out maybe a decade or maybe 2 decades ago. I don't know if any of you read it. Who Moved My Cheese? Do you remember that book? So it was all about change, right? And these two mice and these two people who live in this world of cheese, and एक दिन खत्म हो जाती है चीज और वो शोर मचाता है एक बंदा कि भाई who moved my cheese, कौन ले गया, you know. And the point is, there came another book after that which says, don't even ask who moved my cheese. Who cares who moved your cheese, right? So say, I moved my cheese. खुद क्यों नहीं आप करते? Before it is done to you. So change before you have to. Take time to dream and to think. And I say dream, when you dream, dream big. ठीक है? अल्लामा इकबाल ने भी यही कहा था ना? Reach for the stars. Sure, you'll settle somewhere in between. But अगर आपकी पहुंच ही इतनी कम हो, तो फिर होना क्या है? And this is a concept which was further elaborated on by Jack Welch. Jack Welch came up with stretch goals. And he said, जितनी बंदे की capability है, capacity है, जो भी है, उससे थोड़ा और उसको करवाने दो. And you'll be surprised because people actually, when you believe in them and you say you can do it, they will not disappoint you. They will deliver. और हमें भी अपने साथ यही करना चाहिए. ठीक है ना? कोफी अनान ने कहा था, keep raising the bar. ये नहीं है कि मैंने ये कर लिया है और अब बस. And this is, I think, panel discussion ka, the underlying theme was that. Keep learning. Be a forever student. Be a perpetual student. Live your dreams. So whatever you're dreaming of, enact it in real life, okay? Dream big, hairy, audacious goals. Has anybody heard of this term called BHAG? Yeah? So you, B-H-A-G, but you pronounce it BHAG. Big, hairy, audacious goals. ऐसी चीज जो लोग सुन के कहें यार ये तो सवाल ही पैदा नहीं होता, हो ही नहीं सकता. John F. Kennedy in the 60s had a BHAG. You know what that was? We land a man on the moon. Right? And he said, ये हमारा इस decade का काम है. 1969, July, they managed. So what is your Mount Everest? What is that wild dream that you have of maybe changing the world, maybe making yourself rich, maybe leaving an impact? Whatever it is, what do you dream of? Once you have a dream, you can find a way to achieve it. पहले तो why होना चाहिए ना आपके पास. Why do you want to do this? What will follow? How will come with that? कैसे करना है वो मिल जाएगा आपको बात. But करना क्या है? That is what is something you have to decide. Does anybody know about the availability bias? Cognitive biases की जब बात आती है, तो availability bias is something that is a very common thing हमारे यहाँ हर जगह. Availability bias कहता है कि basically कोई भी चीज का होने की prediction जो हम करते हैं ना, वो किस basis पे करते हैं? On the availability of it. हमें कितना ज़्यादा available नज़र आता है, हमारा उससे कितना interaction है. That is the basis on what we do it. Things that come to mind with these are believed to be far more common and more accurate reflections of the world. है कि नहीं है? For instance, if I ask you, are mermaids real? Yes? Yes? Okay, and I asked my son this, and he's like, for God's sakes, The Little Mermaid was a fairy tale. And if I tell you that maybe about, I think 7-8 years ago, off the coast of Japan, National Geographic में ये आया था कि किसी एक photographer ने तस्वीर ली of things, creatures in the water, which look like mer people. So there is a possibility that they're real, okay? There is a very strong possibility that they're real. Just because you and I have not seen it, हमें लगता हो ही नहीं सकता. Cannibalism, Adam Khor, real? They are real, okay? Just because they're not amongst us, or it seems less so. कि हाँ होता है कहीं शायद kind of a deal. We make our decisions and choices based on these assumptions कि जो हमें पता है वही सच है, वही available है, तो वही चीज accurate है. Often without even considering other alternatives. So let's try this, okay? Everybody has a piece of paper and a pen to write with? Okay. So think about this in the meantime. Are there more English words that begin with the letter R than words that have R as the third letter? Okay? Think. The word R, the letter R. So if you can quickly perhaps jot down words that come to mind that begin with the letter R. Okay, everybody got 5, 10, what, something? Kafi aaye? Yes? No? Maybe? Sure, let's do that.
Okay, so more with R as the third. Someone is saying bird, herd, griddle, burden, right, rot, ramp, reach, ring, third letter. R with third, okay.
Interesting, okay.
Burn, bore, bird. Okay. So yeah.
What about the ones with R as the first letter? We've tried that first. R, starting with R, words start with R. How many do we guys have? How many do they have? 10, 15 odd words? What do you think? Yes? Okay, now let's try words with R as the, इसी तरह के words होंगे आपके, ठीक है ना? These are some that we came up with. Okay, now try and think of 10 English words that have R as the third letter. And don't repeat these now.
Okay.
Do that on the road.
Sure.
Yeah? Do you think this is much more difficult? Is easier than the first? Anna? I would think, I don't know.
More difficult. They're saying more difficult.
More difficult?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the majority, at least online, feel that this is more difficult than words that start with R. Do you agree? Okay, how many of you agree? Let's put it that way. Yes. So R as the third letter is more difficult. Okay, some of you say so. Most of the online ones say so. Interestingly enough,
It's more fun to think of.
most of us are convinced that there are more words that begin with R rather than have R as a third letter. Okay, I'm just talking majority wise perhaps. Now, according to Quora, there are 22,809 English words that have R as the third letter, whereas only 8,955 words that begin with R. So it's the other way around, except हमें R वाले नजर ज़्यादा आते हैं. This is what I mean by availability. Technically, that's not a fact. नहीं है ये. मगर हमें लगता है क्योंकि हमें नजर यूं आता है. हमने सोचा ही नहीं है उस तरफ, जहां सोचने बैठे तो लगा. That's the point. Okay? Michelangelo said the greatest danger for most of us is not that our aim is too high and we miss it, but that it is too low and we reach it. So at the end of the day, what does this say? What's the lesson in this? Raise the bar. Yeah, raise the bar. Absolutely. Keep raising the bar. Right? And, you know, you might think it's funny right now and all, but trust me, this is something that will help you in your life. The minute you have low expectations of yourself or others around you, they'll come true because they're so low, it will happen. And then what? So the idea is to dream and dream big. The bigger your dreams, the better it is. Big, hairy, audacious goals. Okay? And they're not supposed to be goals that you can achieve overnight or maybe by the time you graduate even. They're supposed to be your 5 to 10 year goals. Okay, what will you achieve? Break down the vision into ambitious goals. So like I said, that's your overarching goal. And that shall be broken down into smaller ones. So, you know, a question is, how do you eat an elephant? It's a huge thing, the elephant. And I tell you, for lunch, you have to complete that. How will you eat it? Freeze it? Huh? Yeah, right? But the first step is to take the first bite. If we sit here and keep thinking about, oh my God, ये किस तरह खत्म होगा, वो तो कभी शुरू भी नहीं होगा फिर. And this is something you need to remember in work, while you're studying. Procrastination. We all tend to procrastinate. How many of us do that? Tell me honestly. All of us. And it's usually with things that either we find difficult or we don't enjoy doing. तो हम कहते हैं कल कर लूंगी मैं, या let me have this coffee and then I'll think about it, or whatever. आप अपने आप को delaying tactics होते हैं. Has anybody heard of Brian Tracy's model called Eat That Frog? So there's a whole book on that. And his theory is कि जब आप suppose काम कर रहे हैं, any work at all, right? So right now, say your mother, before you leave for college, says, instead of giving you that nice cup of tea and the paratha, she says, ये live daddu hai, जिसको तुमने खाना है, right? And that's what you get, a live frog. So what is the likelihood of, you know, how you'll react? You'll probably sit there and stare at it and stare at it and say, oh, you know, and ulti aa rahi hai, or ji kharab ho raha hai, or fana ho raha hai, and you'll keep looking and looking away and looking and looking away. Isn't that what a normal person does? But according to Brian Tracy, he says, देखें, ये गायब नहीं होना. जितना भी आप देख लें, ये गायब नहीं होगा. So the best thing to do is आंख बंद करें और निकल लें. Okay, because now this is the worst thing that could have happened to you all day. The rest of the day is going to be brilliant compared to this, right? And the frog is your most important task. So that's your MIT, what you have to accomplish. So the idea is कि जो सबसे जरूरी बड़ा काम है वो सबसे पहले कर लें, ताकि the rest of the day is a breeze. Okay? Do not procrastinate on that one. Don't keep putting it off. निकल लें. And then, अगर, you know, you've been a really good boy and mama gives you 2 frogs for breakfast now, which one do you eat first? The uglier one first. Okay? So eat the uglier one first. जो सबसे बुरा, सबसे मुश्किल काम है वो पहले करें, उसके बाद आप लाइन से जाएं. People see things as they are and they say, why? I see things that never were and say, why not? So ये बिल्ला भी अपने आप को शीशे में शेर देख रहा है, right? We tend to underestimate ourselves. We tend to undersell ourselves. We don't realize our own value at times. And you know why that is? Because we've never thought about it. If I ask you genuinely right now, what is it that sets you apart from anyone else? What is your strength? What is your weakness? Would you really know? You know, the last year students, jo seniors hain, they may have been prepping for this because one of the questions they ask, one of the common questions, and I don't know, Malia would be a better, well, you said you don't do recruitment, but I think it's a stupid question. What is your strength? What is your weakness? They've all prepped it, okay? You have various websites which tell you, कि जी weakness भी ऐसी बताएं जो कि strength है, लेकिन आप अपनी, you know, मजलूमियत में आप कहेंगे देखें बस ये मेरे साथ मसला है. I'm just too hardworking, you know, that's my problem. Yeah, it's silly. Okay, and what do they expect? Achha, another one. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? You know, the answer to that is in your seat, but I can't say that because you won't hire me then, right? So, kya sahi jawab hai? Anyway, the point is कि हम अपने आप को अच्छे. How many of you have an elevator speech, by the way? Okay, guys, that's crucial. You got to have an elevator speech. Okay, it's a 20 to 30 second explaining why or what you want to do or why you are different. Okay, do you think you have maybe 12 odd good qualities? 10 that you can tell me about? 10 होंगे आप में? कोई ना कोई अच्छी चीजें 10 तो होंगी यार. That's what I mean. You undersell yourselves. Yes, come on. I mean, if you don't believe it, how do you expect the other person to believe it? सबसे बड़ी बात. So 10 things, yes, I'm sure you have. But the point is, look around you. Look at people next to you. Okay? Do you think they have those same things? The likelihood is, yes, they do. So what sets you apart then? Why should the recruiter hire you? And that is something only you can answer. But focus on that. Because there's a huge competition for jobs out there, okay? And there'll be all qualified people like you. What will set you apart? Ji.
So as you were saying this, I was thinking, most recruiters now sometimes ask this question that, what are your failures, not what are you good at, what are you bad at? And I think that's more important now, more than ever, because as we see people who are dominating the world, they're actually failures.
Yeah, yeah.
And the best thing is that they adapt from their failures, like they adapt to excel.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I see this still that koi job markets mein, they expect the best of the best. But again, that's my question, like, how much of the future will it be like that also?
Okay, so look, right now, I think when you guys step out to interview, they won't be asking you for concrete examples because one is assuming that the last 1 year you have been at home and secluded from others. So that is a reality. What have you done well? How have you accustomed yourself? How have you learned to adjust is the question. How have you emerged a better person despite whatever happened? And yes, that may be a failure, right? Whatever happened, how did you bounce back? And failure is, look, a failure has a very negative connotation, right? The question should be, what have you learned at the end of the day? By whatever you may not have accomplished. A lot of people say, सबसे बड़ी accomplishment आपकी क्या थी अब तक? And you know what some people actually answer? I mean, you'll be shocked at this. Ji, I graduated. Wah wah. Bada tir maar liya aapne, graduate kar liya, right? Lekin what did you do which was different? What did you learn as a consequence? Now we're moving towards behavioral interviews. So they'll give you situations where they'll say, okay, this is a scenario. Tell me what you would do here. Or tell me about a time you faced a challenge in your school project, your teamwork, I don't know, anything. So you'll have to give stories. It's all about storytelling. It's about actually narrations. What is your narrative is what you have to actually craft. Okay? Set high goals and standards and think about how to reach and exceed them. So don't aim low, keep aiming high. All right, Jay, how many of you are artists here? Anyone? Who's this? Brad Pitt, yes, all right. Okay, so how many of you can draw this, replicate this drawing? No one? That's shocking. Okay, tell you what, how about I teach you how to do this in the next 5 minutes and make you a world-class artist in the process. Would you like that? Yeah? Okay, great. So now, tell me, how many of you can draw a gray square? Hands up. All of you can do it? Great. That's a good start, right? So if you can draw one gray square, it is safe to argue that you can make 2 gray squares, and 3, and 9, and so on and so forth, right? Right? And there we have our Brad Pitt. So that's a good question. What's wrong with that? Why reinvent the wheel? Do you know who this is? This is Chuck Close. Okay, 1940 की पैदाइश है इनकी, American painter, artist, and photographer. He makes these massive scale photorealistic portraits. For decades, he was one of the highest paid artists in the world. All right? Methodical, systems-driven, photorealistic work. So एक तस्वीर को break down करके reproduce करना. That's it. And I'll tell you something. I know this for a fact. I went to art school. Okay, and I'm happy to say that I went to one of the best art schools in the world. And you know how they teach you? So इसी तरह की एक तस्वीर हमें कहा गया अपनी तस्वीर ले आए आप. अच्छा जी एक black and white तस्वीर लेके पहुंच गए हम. अब आप इसको बनाएं. I mean, come on, that's not easy, right? So everybody had these ready pen, ink, whatever, drawings, this, that, and the other. Said, okay, scrap this. How about we do old masters? So, Rembrandt and, the Mona Lisa and what have you. And like, हम कैसे बनाएंगे? भैया नहीं आता इसलिए तो यहाँ बैठे हैं. आता होता तो यहाँ ना आते ना सीखने. But there is a method to the madness, okay? So if you actually break it down into grids, and the smaller you go, the better, and start replicating each grid at a time, you will end up with an old master. That is the method. That is exactly how you do it. And this guy made millions doing it. So what do we learn from this? What is the lesson in this? Yeah? Yeah? You got to start somewhere. And if you keep at it, you will make it. पहले देख के लग रहा था ये कभी हो ही नहीं सकता, मैं नहीं बना सकती, kind of thing. First आपका reaction था. But I guarantee you, and I challenge you, you can do this. You can. Okay? Anyone can. Believe in you and your ideas. A lot of times, हमारे में belief नहीं होता, strong belief नहीं होता. And that's why our ideas don't make it. Everybody has ideas. Everyone does. But the ones who actually do it are the ones who profit from it. ठीक है? पिकासो का काम देख के कितने लोगों ने कहा है और आज दिन तक कहते रहते हैं यार ये तो मेरे 6 साल का बेटा बना लेता. यार आपके 6 साल के बेटे ने नहीं बनाया ना. That's the point. ठीक है ना? So the one who does it gets it. Picasso ne kaha, I'm always doing that which I cannot do in order that I may learn how to do it. So keep stretching yourself to do things that you don't know yet. to learn new things, because you never know where your talent may be. Do any of you know your strengths or your weaknesses? Back to that question. Okay, now say Habib University says that the next 1 year is dedicated to maybe one skill, which could be either your weakness or your strength, जिस पे आप focus कर सकते हैं और आपके पास सारी resources होंगी. What would you go for? The strength or the weakness? Strength? 100%. Nobody wants to fix their weaknesses.
Weakness
Weakness?
one.
अब बदल गए.
We have like couple weaknesses here.
And more strengths or not?
Weaknesses.
Weaknesses.
Yep.
Okay. In answer to that, let me share a small story with you. So this is, his name will come, Wipro Corporation. Anyway, the CEO of Wipro, okay, it was at the IIT inauguration, and he said, I want to share 10 life lessons with you. One of those lessons was about strengths and weaknesses. And you know what he said? He said there was he told a small story. There was a rabbit family, a mama papa rabbit, and they had a baby rabbit. Very, very cute baby rabbit. Oh, bada zaheen. When he started going to school, he was great at hopping, okay? Excelled, really bright. But swimming mein wo bichara zara paidal tha. So like any other parent, the parents went to the teachers and they said, yaar isko zara zyada, time dein, extra attention dein, tuition lagwa diye swimming ke, aur bunny ko samjhaya ka beta dekho, hopping to tumhe aati hai, ye to hai tumhari strength na, why don't you focus on now swimming, because this is clearly your weakness. At the end of the year aapka exam hona hai. तो फरमाबरदार बनी ने हर चीज छोड़ छाड़ के हाथ धो के पीछे पड़ गया स्विमिंग के. पूरा साल गुजरा, आखिर में जब एग्जाम का वक्त आया तो the first test was hopping. What do you think happened? Why? That was his strength. Yeah. He didn't polish it, right? So anything and everything needs practice and polishing. You need to be in practice. तो वो तो fail हो गया. What about swimming? What do you think happened there? Have you ever seen a rabbit swim? Rabbits can't swim, right? It's innately not in them to swim. So I'm saying, but you're right. If it was you or I and we were focusing on some weakness, hoga kya? Kuch arse baad, mediocre. And that's the best you can be, right? Because you don't have the talent, the God-given talent for something. Now, there is another theory which says that there is X number of hours of practice required for excelling in anything. Do you know what those numbers are? How many hours of practice? Any guess? 10,000 hours, yeah? So they say anything, I want to learn how to play the piano and I want to become, really good at it. 10,000 hours if I put into it, I will be really good at playing piano. Yes? Okay, my understanding was to be excelling at anything. Now, world class, and this is perhaps a personal thing, requires a little bit more, okay? So if that was the argument, then anyone could become a world class. So there is something which sets you a little apart from others, right? So we have child prodigies. We do have them. What is it? They haven't done the practice, but they have some innate talent for something. Be it Mozart, be it Beethoven, yeah? तो एक थोड़ा कुछ होता है जिसको आपने पॉलिश जरूर करना है, but होना जरूरी है, right? Habitualize success. Success is not a mere standard or a benchmark. It has to emerge as a culture, a habit, a feature that you continue to live with. And you know what Sergei Schumacher said? Achieving once is relatively easy. Anyone can win once, okay? It's staying on top that really matters. So have any of you succeeded at anything? Have you been a winner at least once in your life? all of you, I guarantee you, something or the other you have achieved. Chahe wo cycle chalana seekhna kyun na ho, right? And I remember for me, that was the biggest achievement at that age. Chalana to phir bhi theek tha, rokna was a bigger issue. ठीक है, चल तो आप चलते हैं, but how to stop the cycle without falling? But okay, so you've all succeeded once at least. You know the formula, right? If you've done it once, you can do it again. Why don't you do it repeatedly is my question. Because one, you've forgotten the formula. Because you can't remember what happened. यार वो तुक्का लग गया होगा शायद उस वक्त. Or you are, which is more of a likelihood, you're lazy. We're all lazy. Okay, what happens is we find our shortcuts. So for instance, if you say can't bake, ठीक है ना, and I tell you that I make the best chocolate cake in the world, and you say अच्छा मुझे recipe दें आप, तो I'll be share my recipe with you, and in part of that recipe is, and I'll tell you step by step, but I will tell you कि जो अंडे हैं आपने फ्रिज से निकाल के नहीं डालने, they should be at room temperature, so 2 घंटे बाहर पहले रखना जरूरी है आपको. पहली दफा तो आप करेंगे जो मैंने कहा है, step by step, and you'll come up with what? The best cake in the world, right? To a large extent, logic says, if I follow a certain recipe to the letter, I will end up with that product. ठीक है ना? Now, I made that cake. Now, सब कहते हैं भाई फौजिया का तो बड़ा जबरदस्त चॉकलेट केक होता है, अगली दफा फिर बनाओ. अब क्या होगा? अगली दफा जल्दी में बना रही हूँ, अब यार 2 घंटे कौन अंडे बाहर रखता है? ठीक है ना, 10 मिनट काफी थे. So that's where I start making my small mistakes and my small adjustments. Because now I know better. Because now I'm the expert. Right? वो मेरा downfall है. क्योंकि I'm not following the formula now. सही है? Expert level performance is primarily the result of expert level practice. Not always innate talent also, right? So practice will get you there. Be uniquely you. You know, think about what sets you apart. What is it that is special about you? आपकी skills क्या हैं? आपकी strengths क्या हैं? What is your story? Okay? Be different. What do you enjoy doing? Just don't copy others. Be the best version of yourself, not somebody else that you want to copy. ठीक है ना? Stand apart from the crowd. And somebody spoke about the hedgehog and the fox, right? It was, I think, one of you? Yeah. Okay, so this is basically from Jim Collins' book, Good to Great. And the concept is known as the hedgehog concept. So basically, this is an old Greek parable जिसमें कहते हैं कि in a forest, there are hedgehogs and there are foxes. ठीक है? And they battle every single day. तो आपका जो, okay, let me just give you a brief about the book. Has anyone read Good to Great by Jim Collins? I would highly recommend that you read every book by Jim Collins, okay? Built to Last, Good to Great, he's great. Excellent books. इस किताब में उसने ये लिखा था, he said that I wanted to research why certain companies stay in the Fortune 100 list for a long time. And then there are others who just make it once or twice and then they drop off. So what is the key to that sustainability? क्या वो चीज है जिसकी वजह से they continuously remain on that list? And that's what he set out to discover. But we can take it in a personal context also. ठीक है? तो hedgehog theory उसने कहा is what sets them apart. They know they're hedgehog. अब hedgehog आपका होता क्या है? Foxes जो हैं, they pursue many ends at the same time. They're very complex creatures. You know, you call them the cunning fox. चालाक लोमड़ी होती है. वो हर चीज के बारे में सोचती है. ठीक है? हर एंगल से देखा जाता है. बड़े plans होते हैं उसके दिमाग में, right? Very scheming, very plotting creature. So every morning the fox stands and waits for the hedgehog to come so he can make a kill. अब वो वहां खड़ा सोच रहा है कि अच्छा ये मैं दरख्त के पीछे तो यहाँ शैडो आएगा, नहीं ये इधर से आएगा तो मैं यहाँ जाऊंगा तो वो पानी है नहीं है, शैडो है नहीं है, हजार चीजें फॉक्स ने प्लान कर ली हैं कि मैंने किस तरह से इसको दबोच लेना है। अब ये हेजहॉग बेचारा जो है ना, ये बड़ा ही सिंपल कैरेक्टर है, इसको कुछ ज्यादा सोच समझना नहीं
और
आता,
नहीं
इसको
बराबर,
कुछ ज्यादा नहीं आता, इसको एक चीज आती है जिंदगी में. You know what that is? You know what a hedgehog is? Have you ever seen a hedgehog? या कंटीला चूहा भी कहते हैं लोग इसको, इसको सै कहते हैं सिंधी में, right? So it's basically a little ratish looking thing, and when it is in danger, okay, उसकी spikes निकल आती हैं, the thorns, like a porcupine, right? उसको सिर्फ एक चीज आती है, कैसे अपने आप को बचाना. In 1,000 battles in the jungle, who do you think emerges the winner? Most of the time. The hedgehog. And why? Now think about it. The hedgehog knows one thing only, but it knows it very well. The fox knows many, many, many things, but he's scattered. So the lesson in it is, don't be a jack of all trades and master of none. हाँ? अब हमारी दुनिया specialization की तरफ चली गई है. So you are more worthy if you are a specialist rather than a generalist. Isn't that right? So this is the hedgehog concept. It's made up of 3 intersecting circles. The first one talks about what is it that you are deeply passionate about. किस चीज का आप में सबसे ज्यादा जज्बा है, दिल से जज्बा है. What is it that you have the God-given talent for? What are you best in the world at? There must be something that you're really, really good at. Okay, and lastly, what is it that will make you money? What will drive your economic engine? What is it that something people will pay you for? इनका जहां intersection होता है वो आपका hedgehog है. So what you love and what pays you well, ये 2 चीजें सिर्फ हुई तो एक ख्वाब रह जाएगा. और अगर सिर्फ आपका पैशन एंड आपका टैलेंट कंबाइन करेंगे तो you may be very happy, but you probably will end up poor. Okay? And if you talk about what you're really good at and what pays well, you may make lots of money, but you won't enjoy it. So इन तीनों चीजों का होना जरूरी है for a win-win. Okay, remember when you go about to find your passion or to choose that career option, think outside the box. And I think we talked about this earlier in the panel also. People were talking about thinking outside the box. Expand your horizons. Okay? हम कहते हैं man is born free, but is in chains everywhere. हम अपनी self limiting beliefs कायम करते हैं. हम अपने आप को कहते हैं कि ये हो नहीं सकता, ये पॉसिबल ही नहीं है हम जैसे लोगों के लिए. ठीक है ना? वो कोई और लोग होते हैं. और ये बात पहले भी हुई थी कि भाई गवर्नमेंट में नौकरी के लिए पर्ची चाहिए होती है, सिफारिश चाहिए होती है, आगे बढ़ने के लिए जिंदगी में सिफारिश चाहिए. Even a lot of people believe कि पहली नौकरी के लिए भी यार जब तक जान पहचान नहीं होगी कोई नहीं पूछता, क्योंकि हजारों रेज्यूमेज आते हैं, हमें कौन पूछेगा, right? But I'll tell you what it is. It's perseverance, and it is also smartness. Remember, the world has changed. Right now, there are ATSs half the time which are scrutinizing these CVs. You know what an ATS is? Applicant tracking system. So they pick up on certain keywords. What are those keywords? Those keywords will match the ad जिसमें आपका JD दिया गया है. वो words इस्तेमाल करने की कोशिश करें, छापे नहीं, but use those words in your CV. Okay? So if they call it, I don't know, managing, then you call it managing. Okay? If they call it, I don't know, digitizing, then make sure you use the word digital somewhere in your thing, because that's what the system will pick up in order for you to be shortlisted. Also, I think it's very critical to have a CV for different jobs. Okay, different CVs which relate to different jobs. And I'm sure you've been told that before. If It's very critical. Spend a lot of time on your CV, spend a lot of time on your LinkedIn profile, spend a lot of time on your social presence, and be very aware of your social presence, because it's not just LinkedIn that people look at when they want to hire you. It will be your Facebook, it will be your Snapchat, it will be your Insta footprint also, what you tweet. It will be a combination of all those things. And that's what makes you who you are. So think carefully, because everything leaves a footprint. Everything. When I say think outside the box and explore and, limiting fences apne khatam kare. Thomas Watson, founder and chairman of IBM, in 1943 mein kaha tha, there is a world market for about 5 computers. Okay? Was he proven wrong? Hugely so. Now IBM has made a comeback. But at that time, IBM dominated the server market, the huge servers, right? But they said, ye jo Bill Gates ka jo vision hai of a desktop on every desktop, ye nahi hota. Koi nahi kharidega. And they lost out on a huge chunk of the market for a long, long time. Hayes, American president, 1875. The telephone is an amazing innovation, but who will ever use it? And look where we are today. Okay, Zanuck, head of 20th Century Fox in 1946 said, television won't be able to hold on to any market it captures after the first 6 months. People will soon get tired of staring into a box every night. He has been proven wrong, and more so now in the era of Netflix. Yes? The horse is here to stay, but the automobile is only a novelty, a fad. जो फेड हो जाएगा, फैशन है. ये सेविंग्स बैंक का प्रेसिडेंट था जिसने हेनरी फोर्ड के लॉयर को एडवाइस किया था कि आप फोर्ड मोटर्स में ना इन्वेस्ट करें, बिकॉज कुछ फायदा नहीं है. German car manufacturer 1914, the development has been so remarkable that we do not expect any further improvements in the future. और ये होगा उस वक्त. So what I mean to say is keep stretching yourself. What can you do with your degree? Do you know where you want to go with it? No. Right? And that's an honest no. Because a lot of times we're confused. We don't know what our options are even at this point. Because honestly speaking, by the time you graduate, whether it is 1 year or 2 years, the landscape will be very different. But what you need to do is keep preparing for that. Okay? And sometimes some of you may choose to go on to postgrad. Right? You may want to do your master's first, or you may want to look for a job. And again, like we talked about, it may not even be a job necessarily in the field that you have studied. So the world of work is changing all the time. 5 years' time, you may find yourself in a role that does not exist right now, okay? और हमने अभी तक सुना ही नहीं है इसके बारे में. But 5 साल बाद, it will be a reality. Explore key skills that are gained in each degree and what you can do with them. So what you need to break down is, whatever degree you are going for, what are the main skills that you have learned in that? Okay? Be it discipline, be it mathematical thinking, be it logic, be it creativity, innovation, whatever it may be, think about what you have learned from that. And then try and see where else it applies. So this is one option that I found that could help open your mind to some new ideas. Okay, so this is a really great website. It's basically for the UK, but a lot of things apply here too. So try this out. And in terms of, we were talking about assessment centers and tests and stuff. Have any of you done these online tests, personality or aptitude tests and stuff? Do practice those, because the more you do them, the better you get at it, especially the aptitude ones. Personality to personality hoti hai, because you can't, like we said, lie about it, right? But it's a good idea to know what to expect. So there's a website called 123test.com, and they have a lot of tests. Try some of those. Okay. Let me ask you something. Way back in school, when you started school, right? Montessori nursery, whenever you started, you remember being, sort of explained shapes and colors and basic things like that? Yade? You remember the basic shapes? You remember how to draw a triangle? Yes? Okay, humor me. Why don't you draw a triangle on a piece of paper? Just one triangle. Okay, I hope the online ones are doing this as we speak. Draw a triangle on a piece of paper. Just one simple triangle. So that was easy enough, was it, guys? Yes? All right. Now, let's say I give you 10 seconds. Okay, when I say go, see how many triangles you can make. Okay, go. Stop. Okay, count the triangles. How many did you manage? 8, 11,
10,
10,
12,
12. Okay, so 8,
13.
12, 13.
11.
Yeah, so average, yeah. So between 8 and 13 is what you did. Now, say I give you another chance at it. Do you think you can do better? Why? Same triangles, right? Haath khul gaya hai? Practice? Is that what it is? No? You can do what? That's what, right? So again, we practice. I'll tell you one thing, people. Practice does not make perfect. Practice only makes permanent. ठीक है? Which I can prove. Because अगर आप करते भी हैं ना, दोबारा मैं आपको चांस भी देती हूँ, आप यही करेंगे और शायद 2-3 ट्राइंगल बढ़ जाएंगे आपके. Maybe you can get up to a 15 का score at best. But how about if I suggest that you do it a different way? Okay? Maybe make parallel lines, okay, and write a continuous W in it. Oh, some of you did that? Okay, I'm sorry, you're really far away and I really can't hear you. But can you try this? Can you try this way now? Ye kiya tha. Something similar, yeah? And how many did you get then? Okay. So yeah, that's the whole idea, right? To
Ms.
do
Fazia?
something different.
Someone said that they can make smaller partitions of the existing triangle.
Yeah, that
make
could be
more.
one way. Yeah, so this is one way I thought of. The point is, and if you do this, okay, I guarantee you, you will double your productivity in half the time. That is a guarantee. 5 seconds में आप double बना लेंगे. Obviously, ठीक है ना? ये तो नजर आ रहा है. So basically the point is that if you change the way you do something, you will get better results. Okay? You know what they call the definition of insanity? Doing the same things over and over again and expecting different results. How can that be? You'll get the same thing you got by doing the same thing you're doing. It makes sense. So think, feel, and behave and act positively. How many of you think positive is great? हमको positive होना चाहिए जिंदगी में. No? Yes? So there are 3 things, okay? Yeah. So there is एक pessimist होता है और एक होता है optimist. So somebody who sees the glass half full and one who sees the glass half empty, right? How do you see it? The new theory is the glass is refillable. सही है ना? तो आप बढ़ सकते हैं दोबारा. Why cry over whatever is there or not there? Now that there is a third possibility, and that is realism. Realistic होना चाहिए. जिंदगी में ना ज़्यादा positive हो, ना ज़्यादा negative हो. Because when you're extremely positive, होता ये है कि you'll end up disappointing yourself sometimes, or life will disappoint you sometimes. ठीक है ना? I tell my sons that all the time. Life is not fair. That's just the way it is, right? So let me tell you again from the book Good to Great. This is the Stockdale paradox. This is Jim Stockdale, Admiral थे. United States military officer. इनको Vietnam War में 8 साल तक he was a prisoner of war. Him and his team. Okay? Tortured more than 20 times. Never had much reason to believe he could survive the prison camp. Obviously, okay? 8 years is a long time. So much torture. So, do you think he made it? He did make it. That's why we're talking about him, right? So he made it. But who didn't make it? He had a team. उनके सारे जो platoon था, वो भी उनके साथ ही पकड़ा गया था, जितने भी बचे थे उस वक्त. Do you think those guys made it out? They were huge optimists. What happened was, the optimists did not make it. And you know why? Because they were the ones who kept telling them, each other and themselves कि यार कोई मसला नहीं है, Christmas पे they will come and rescue us. But Christmas तो हमने घर जाके ही मनानी है. अच्छा अब Christmas आई और गई, कोई मसला नहीं, New Year's Eve तक तो पहुंच ही जाएंगे ये लोग. New Year's Eve आया और गया, ठीक है ना? And then they were like, okay, whatever the next, Easter पे हम घर होंगे. Easter आया और गया. Thanksgiving तो घर पे ही जाके मनानी है. And they kept thinking that, okay, this is what positivity is, right? They will come and get us. They will rescue us. हम घर जाएंगे. कुछ भी हो जाए, हम घर जाएंगे. And why do you think it failed them? What do you think happened? What's wrong with this kind of thinking? Yes, they died of broken hearts. That's what happened. Okay, because you can't be like an ostrich and put your head in the sand and ignore my apologies, please. Always on silent. I don't know what happened. So what happened is they died of broken hearts because you cannot put your head in the sand like an ostrich and say that I will emerge once the storm is over and things will be as they were. Life doesn't work like that. लेकिन इनका ख्याल ये था, ठीक है ना, reality इन्होंने नहीं choose की कि भाई है क्या, मसला है क्या. You have to be realistic about things. In your situation, I would strongly recommend that be realistic. Okay, things are bad right now. Let's all be cognizant of that fact. Jobs इतने नहीं हैं. शायद जो मैं करना चाह रही हूँ उसमें इतने jobs नहीं हैं. What do I do then? Be realistic about things and find ways. But keep telling yourself that whatever happens, I will prevail. I will find a way. And I will survive this. Okay, and that's the difference between a realist and a optimist. Because Jim Stockdale ने कहा कि I knew that I was in a really bad situation. यहाँ से निकलना बहुत मुश्किल है. But he said I kept devising ways. उसने कोई एक Morse code में कुछ एक tapping code बनाया जिससे वो अपने साथियों से communicate करता था. There was some code in which he used to communicate with his wife and he wrote to her. So all of that he found in order to एक तो अपने आप को बहलाने के लिए कि यार देखो, something to keep me going, and then a realistic approach, a plan. Okay, you can't just keep saying कि जी हम positive रहेंगे और हो जाएगा सब कुछ. Has anyone seen The Secret? The book, the movie, yeah? So it talks about, basically The Secret talks about the law of attraction. It says कि जो आप सोचेंगे वैसा ही आपके साथ होगा, right? So you attract what you think about. And this is basically what I'm sure all of us have at some point or the other heard during our growing up years. My dadi used to say, जैसी करनी वैसी भरनी, right? And कबूलियत का मौका होता है, तो अच्छी सोच रखो, तो अच्छे ख्याल रखो, तो अच्छा होगा तुम्हारे साथ. Variations of that. The secret is all very well. Yes, think positive, do this, do that. But the secret का जो sequel आया, उसमें कहता है कि आपने action भी तो लेना है. सिर्फ बैठ के सोचने से कुछ नहीं होगा. Action भी लेना है आपने accordingly. Yeah. Absolutely. And positivity is good. Positivity is really good, but it has to come with an action plan, right? So you must retain faith that you will prevail in the end, regardless of the difficulties. And at the same time, you have to confront the brutal facts of your reality. Excuse me. So has anyone heard of the 90-10 principle? 90-10. So it says basically that, whatever people may say, the secret, कि जो सोचे आप वैसा ही होगा, 90% जो जिंदगी में होता है, वो एक तरफ, 10% जो है, is not in your control. However positive you may be, whatever you may want to think, the 10% is beyond your control. But the 90% is governed by your attitude and how you react to certain situations. तो the 10% तो होना ही होना है. अब आपने उसको किस तरह handle करना है is in your hands, which is the 90%. Now, I heard this and I learned this prayer many, many, many years ago when I was a child. And I'm sure you might have heard it at some point. God, give me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and above all, the wisdom to know the difference. So the 10% के पीछे मैं ना पड़ जाऊं जो मेरे कंट्रोल में है ही नहीं, but focus on the 90% that I can control, right? So this is one of my favorite videos. No. Wait a second.
comments is my life summed up so far.
So funny. Yeah, because a lot of times things happen and you don't know why. Okay, you did nothing to ask for it. This guy goes into work one fine day, salam na dua, he gets fired, right? अब वो जा रहा है तो वो एक आध ही दोस्त थे, they've also found other friends by then. सामान गिर गया, बाहर निकले तो टो ट्रक आपकी गाड़ी ले गए, चले जी, let's walk it home. You walk home, you know, after a hard day, जलील ख्वार होके आप आए हैं, you try to get into the house, चाबी गिर जाती है. Fine, there's a hammock outside, I'll lie in that, right? And what happens? उसी वक्त sprinkler on होना था. So sometimes you just can't control things, but what can you control? Your attitude. What will happen will happen. Okay, there's no point मतलब अपने आप को बुरा भला कहना, जिंदगी को अपने आप को कोसना. Why? Just have a positive attitude and move on, because it's going to happen. Whatever is going to happen will happen. Okay, erase the word problem from your vocabulary. Okay. So, I'm sorry, Jack Welch said that I was afraid of the internet because I couldn't type. So don't let your fear of something else hold you back from doing whatever it is that you want to do. Shift your focus, look at things differently. Focus on what is right instead of what is wrong. Focus on solutions, not the problems, okay? And focus on strengths, not the weaknesses. Oh. Okay, let me skip this. Change the mood, okay? Don't put yourself down, don't give in all the time, don't lapse into negativity, and for sure, do not say that I know it all and stop learning and finding and discovering new things. Instead, apne aap ki worth ko jaane. By examining your own self or your strengths, your weaknesses, know what your worth is. Be assertive and be proud of who you are. Never be apologetic for who you are. And move forward with self-care. Look after yourself. You are the biggest asset that you possess. So look after yourself. And I mean it. Sleep is extremely important, okay? Eating the right food, exercising. These are the things that you need to invest in order to have a healthy mind. A healthy body nurtures a healthy mind. Unlock your potential. Do not have boundaries for yourself. Okay, this is something I can't do, or this is only as far as I can go. To stay ahead, you need to focus on your ability to continuously, okay, constantly adapt, engage with others in the process. For students, it's not about acquiring knowledge. That's not it. It's not about that degree that you get. It's about learning to learn. Okay, learn how to learn. You should remember that intellectual complacency is not our friend, and that learning, not just new things, but new ways of thinking is a lifelong endeavor. Find new ways of learning, of doing things. Just constantly challenge yourself. And your competition should be your last big achievement. Nobody else, your own last achievement. And get on your feet after each failure. Constantly learn and find ways to be better and improve yourself. Learn new things all the time. Repetition is key to making sure that you remember things. This repetition is what transfers things from the short-term to the long-term memory, and which will recall things from the long-term memory. Chet Holmes said, I realized that becoming a master of karate was not about learning 4,000 moves, but it was about doing just a handful of moves 4,000 times. This is what we talked about earlier. Kam hona chahiye cheezein aapke arsenal mein, but know how to do them well, really, really well. Don't spread yourself too thin, and stick to it. Seth Godin said, it's important to know when to quit, but many potential winners don't reach success because they quit before the dip. And this is extremely important advice for you all because it will get disheartening at some point. You will send in your resume to a lot of places and you may get some rejections, okay? You will interview many places. Not all of them will call you back for seconds. Not the first person may not offer you a job, okay? But you need to know when not to quit. Psychologists have also studied what is known as the transition cycle, okay? So think about that dip. This is a cycle of progress we go through when we're experiencing change or any new event, okay? कोई tragedy है, कोई opportunity है, कुछ भी हो. एक sense of euphoria आता है when we begin something new. And I think we've all experienced it. कोई नई चीज शुरू करने जाते हैं तो बड़ी excitement होती है. So when you start, with your resume and your job search, you'll be really excited in the beginning and you'll be like, yeah, this is really exciting. ये करना है, ऐसे करना है. All of that will be there. But there's a honeymoon phase, है ना, to everything. तो थोड़े अर्से बाद आप experience करेंगे वो dip. Because आपकी progress जो है, या तो plateau कर गई है, या अब कम होने लगी है. You are not even getting as many calls as you were getting earlier, perhaps. A reason for that is also beginner's luck, okay? So keep that in mind. This is when most of us say, I quit. You end it right there and say, yaar, ye mere bas ki baat nahi hai. Okay, my dream job is something I'm not getting. Let me just settle for anything else, perhaps. And if you can predict that a dip is coming, it's all about awareness. If you know that, then it's easier to prepare for it. So in your mind, you will find strategies to deal with whatever is going to come. More importantly, आपको याद रखना है कि आपने persistence दिखानी है. You have to stick it out and you have to ride the wave because that is what is at the end of the tunnel. Dip आती है और फिर wave आता है. So on your way to the top, you will have to experience the dip. Stay motivated. Keep going. Even the smallest improvement matters. Every bit counts. All right? And with that, I wanted to thank you for your patience. I hope you've learned something. I hope it's given you some new ways of approaching things, of learning things, and how to look at things. This is my email address. If any of you have any questions, would like to know more about any particular thing, anything at all, I'd be happy to help. Thank you. Thank you so much. Any last minute questions? Any thoughts that you might have? Anything that you have there, perhaps?
I have a question from here,
Sure.
from Munib, and he's saying that how does one find the inner strength to do it? Like, how does one train? It went up. Wait. How does one train their will in that way?
So basically what you have to do is know. Like I said, the key is awareness. Once you know that this is what's going to happen, then you can deal with it better. So I told you the dip will come, the transition phase will be there, the honeymoon period will end. You will experience at some point a lowness, a feeling of despair. कि ये नहीं होना. But just know that whatever goes down has to come up, right? And that's the way you keep going. Find different ways to do things. And what Seth Godin said was very right. You need to know when to quit also. अब ढीठ भी नहीं बनना ना एक चीज के बारे में when things are not going your way. So rather than quitting, find an alternate way to do it. Change the way you're approaching it. Maybe you're looking at it wrong. Maybe your approach is different. Anyone else? Anything? Yes, please.
So right now we are asking in these circumstances the questions about what is better and what's beneficial for us. But like no one is asking the questions which should matter and which are ethical questions and what's right to do. Maybe sometimes what is right to do is not always what is beneficial to do. So maybe the element of sacrifice is missing, and like we should ask those ethical questions and those values which are not in terms of capital, but values which are in terms of, we can say, which are not individualistic, but values which are more humane.
Okay. I see where you're coming from. Interestingly enough, when I talked about earlier different consulting companies carving their own models, PwC is something you might be interested in looking up. PwC ka dekhega future of work. So basically what they predicted is that by the year 2030, there will be 4 different kinds of areas that people will be focusing on. So they call it the red world, the blue world, the yellow world, and the green world. So one of them, the yellow world, I think, was where people will be focusing on the greater good. Empathy will rule. This will be the social enterprises that we talk about, right? The green world was more about the environment, climatic change. How do we make it a better place for us all to live? So companies that focus on those kind of things, right? And then there will be those that are there to make money. There will clearly be those always. So it takes all sorts to make up the world, right? What you're saying is really good, yes. And we keep talking about emotional intelligence and empathy, which is one of the key factors of emotional intelligence. Empathy. You need to be able to empathize with the other person, to understand what the other person is going through. But that's not even just in these times, I think. I think that's a universal thing, be it any time. In the best of times even, one has to show empathy. Because you know, where I come from and the road I have walked is not the same as yours. So you should not be ever judging me or, you know, pointing a finger at me. So, and I think that is more evident in the new generation, where they feel that one should not judge and everybody has a right to live their own lives in the manner that they please. This is in the Charter of Human Rights, for God's sakes, which was crafted God knows when in the 40s, right? तो हमें तो अब ये चीज़ों की अवेयरनेस ज़्यादा आ रही है where हम समझते हैं कि ये जी ओ बड़ी चीज़ें एम्पैथी होनी चाहिए ये तो पहले दिन से कहा गया है कि एम्पैथी होनी चाहिए लेकिन प्रैक्टिस करना चाहिए and this is what something should be done every time, right? Corporate social responsibility. A lot of you will be looking at companies which do some corporate give back to society on some level जिनकी CSR activities की वजह से आप वहाँ जाएंगे. So everybody will have a different reason for choosing the path that they choose. And in that, you're guided by your values. You're guided by what is important to you. You're always guided by what makes you happy. And that at the end of the day is what, you know, your passion, what you're good at, all of that combines to make up something. And I hope that answers your question. But yeah, one should never let go of these things, of course. It's not all about money. And we all agreed, it's not all about technology either. It is a big, you know, aid, it is a big help, but I will use it for the better, right? एक knife एक चीज़ है, which is a double-edged thing, right? आप उसको फायदे के लिए भी इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं और उसको उससे नुकसान भी आप कर सकते हैं. So it's up to us as logical thinking, emotional human beings to decide what we want to do with that. Anyone else?
I have a question here. One of the students asked that all of this requires good time management. So how can one do that? How can they manage time properly to be able to?
Okay, so in terms of time management, this is one of my more popular courses. And what I will say right off the bat is that you cannot manage time. Okay, and time is the only democratic thing that God has given us. Democratically. आप अमीर हैं, गरीब हैं, young हैं, old हैं, लंबे हैं, छोटे हैं, whatever it is, everybody has the same amount of time in the day. 24 hours is all we've been given, all of us. ठीक है ना? So you can't manage time. It's there. What you do manage is yourself. You manage yourself. It's called self-management. So there are a lot of ways to do this. You need to understand what your peak productivity time is. You need to understand how to deal with distractions. You need to understand how to deal with stress for that matter. So ये सारी चीजें जो हैं, and whoever asked them to get in touch with me, perhaps this is a long, you know, drawn out thing. I could share material with them. Yeah. So yeah, self-management and not time management. That's it. Thank you very much, and I hope it's been helpful.
Okay.
Thank you, people.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Fawzia. We really enjoyed the discussion and had a lot of fun. This brings us towards the end of our day one of Career Karwa. I would like to thank you all for joining us for today's session. We have arranged refreshments for you all, so you can get them from the LG cafeteria. I'm sure you all have the coupons. Once again, thank you so much and have a good day.
एंड कर दे लीव लीव